We've all done it. We tell an AI to act as a lawyer or think like a top-tier engineer. But have you ever stopped to ask what's really happening when you do that? What's actually being activated under the hood? It's a question that makes all the difference between getting a generic response and a truly precise one. So let's really get into it. We're going to break this down in 6 parts. We'll start with a core idea, look at how it plays out in the real world, understand the system behind it, and then cover the costs of getting it wrong, and of course, how to get it right. All right, first up, the signal. This is the one big idea that kind of reframes the whole interaction. Once you get this, you start to see why your results are what they are. Here it is. This is the central thesis. When you assign a role to an AI, you aren't waking up some dormant personality. It doesn't become a strategist. It doesn't suddenly have a law degree and years of courtroom experience. What you're actually doing is activating a language pattern. You're telling the machine to sample from a very specific slice of its data, the words, the phrases, the sentence structures that are statistically most likely to come from, say, a lawyer. You're not talking to a persona. You're talking to a probability distribution that's just been heavily filtered. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. You can see this pattern play out over and over again across totally different kinds of work. It's a clear, repeatable thing. So take a look at this. Let's say we have some raw data. If we apply the engineer filter, we get a very analytical, systematic output. It's all about function and logic. But if we take that exact same data and just switch the filter to marketer, suddenly the output becomes a persuasive story, all focused on benefits and emotion. See? The data itself didn't change at all. The only thing that changed was the lens we told the AI to look through. And this happens everywhere. Ask an AI to act as a lawyer, you're going to get a structured, risk-averse argument. But then ask it to be a strategist, and out comes a high-level, opportunity-focused framework. This consistent shift shows you exactly what's going on. The AI isn't inventing new knowledge. It's just reorganizing what it already has based on the role you gave it. Okay, so we've seen the pattern in action. Now let's get into the mechanics. What are the core things happening behind the scenes that actually cause this pattern? There are 3. So first up is what we call pattern activation. As we've been saying, the role is just a filter. Think about it like this. The AI has access to a massive universe of language. When you say, act as a lawyer, you're telling it to ignore most of that universe and only use the vocabulary, sentence structure, and reasoning style it has statistically associated with lawyers. You're just dramatically upping the odds it'll use words like liability or precedent. That's it. The second mechanic is perspective reconfiguration. And this is so important. Giving the AI a role doesn't magically give it new knowledge. It can't suddenly learn something it wasn't trained on. What the role does is change how the AI retrieves and assembles the information it already has. It activates different pathways in its neural network, prioritizing facts and connections that are relevant to, say, an engineering mindset over a marketing one. And third, and this might be the most crucial one to remember, is plausibility simulation. The AI's main goal isn't to tell you the truth. Its goal is to generate an output that is stylistically believable for the role it's playing. It simulates what sounds plausible for a lawyer to say, not what is actually factually or legally true for your unique situation. The output sounds authoritative because it matches the pattern of authority, not because it's been verified. Right, so when we mistake this really sophisticated simulation for real understanding, the consequences aren't just theoretical. They show up as real-world problems, wasted time, bad decisions, and a whole lot of frustration. I mean, this is exactly why professionals can waste hours trying to fix an output that sounds great but is actually built on nothing. It's why developers might think a model is hallucinating when really, it's just doing a perfect job of simulating a persona with flawed instructions. It's why creators get stuck in endless revision loops, and why analysts end up trusting a synthesis that's beautifully written but completely superficial. And the thing is, these failures aren't just random bad luck. They are the totally predictable outcome of a mismatch between what we think we're doing and what the system is actually doing. We're asking an actor for a diagnosis. So knowing the problem is one thing. Adopting the mindset to avoid it is another. What's the edge that expert users have? Well, it's not a secret list of prompts. It's a completely different mental model. They don't obsess over what to type. They focus on how to think. And that expert mindset really breaks down into 4 habits. 1, they figure out their exact intent before they even start writing. 2, they know the difference between exploring an idea and executing a specific task, and they use different prompts for each. 3, and this is a big one, they treat every single output as a rough draft, never a final answer. And 4, they build verification into their process. They never, ever outsource their own critical thinking. They treat the AI like a powerful simulation engine that they need to direct, not an oracle they can just ask for answers. And that brings us to the end. So we've gone through the whole system. And now it's time to turn that analysis inward. To really let this sink in, we have to look at our own habits. So the next time you write a prompt, stop and ask yourself, what role am I actually activating here? And more importantly, what baggage comes with it? What assumptions, what vocabulary, what biases am I inheriting just by choosing that role? And before you get stuck trying to refine a mediocre output, just pause and ask, what would happen if I just changed the perspective entirely? What if I switched from an analyst to a storyteller, from a critic to a promoter? How would that change the entire game? And finally, maybe the most important question of all, when you get back a response that just feels right, are you checking it for what's factually true, or are you just being convinced because it's plausible, because it sounds like it should be right? Understanding the difference between those two, well, that's where you really start to master these tools.